What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Talking Halos. I'm your host today, Jared Timms, and I'm joined alongside my co-host, my partner in crime, Nate Green. Nate, how you doing?
Doing well, Jared. How about you, buddy?
I'm not doing too bad. It's baseball season, even though for me it doesn't feel like baseball weather, but it is baseball season, and I'm excited to talk some Angels baseball. We have spring training to talk about. A lot, actually quite a bit to break down. I know the Angels are 4 games in, four, five, something like that. Whatever you want to say.
Yep.
Certain number of games in. Yeah, four,
What's today? Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, 5 games in.
5 games in, plus a doubleheader. Technically, well, not a doubleheader, but a split squad. So whatever you want to say.
Well, four and then doubleheader.
Yeah, we got a lot. We got a lot to
Mm.
break down, a lot to talk about, a lot of positives out there that we are seeing. But first, before we get rolling here, I actually have a question for you. This came from a,
Huge.
this came from actually a follower. Asked me probably a couple weeks ago. So it pertains more to maybe a little bit more to what we talked about last time, with the Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery thing, more so on the Blake Snell side of stuff. Shout out to Tyler R on Twitter. Asked us if we think that Perry is trying to save picks. And now this would only apply to one pitcher now, right? I believe it would only
hmm
apply to Blake Snell. Um, so do we think he's trying to save picks? And I know that I've mentioned the Angels have a nice young core, young group of guys to build around, um, built by Perry and previous GM before that, Billy Epler. But do you think he's trying to save his picks here? And ultimately the money that goes along with it. I know you get players, but I like thinking about it from the money side of stuff a little bit more. So I'll let you answer.
No, I don't think he care. I don't think he cares about his picks. Honestly, like yeah, he likes his first round pick, and as we see, he likes his 10th, 11th pick, right in there. Likes to make a high school splash somewhere in that 8 to 11 range. But I don't think he really cares too much about that pick because if he did, we would have saw a different offseason 2 off seasons ago. We wouldn't have seen Tyler Anderson, the first signing of the year, so quickly. And I just think that's the way that Perry goes about his business is he likes to be early and often. And with the offseason that the Angels had with Shohei Ohtani, and it was hard to be early and often because once you start putting yourself in there, it starts to take you out of the Ohtani sweepstakes. And that's the last thing that Artie and staff wanted was the Angels to be officially out of it until the very end. Um, so no, I don't think that's that big of a deal to the Angels. I think Artie has a set number, and it's like, hey, I don't want to go over 190 or whatever his number is. I don't know what his number is, but I think that is his number. Obviously, Perry knows that anybody can make this team better. The Angels need a lot of help. It's not one player away, but if said player is willing to take enough money where the Angels can fit him under Artie's number, then I think that's what he's really waiting for is Scott Boras to just panic and be like, "Oh, you know what? We aren't getting 30 million. We'll actually take 24." And Perry's looking at the books going, "Hey, 24 gets us our number. Artie is willing to go up to, 25, but let's take 24 and move on." So, I think that's what he's really worried about, not necessarily draft picks.
I care about the money involved with these draft picks, by the way, for
I
those
didn't say
reasons.
you didn't.
No, I
We
know.
we have like he has spent a draft pick every year except for this year. This is the first time that he has not spent a draft pick. So
No Syndergaard the first time, which when you look at it, they actually
still used it.
he did, but when you look at it, he got that draft pick back. To what was the trade? Moniak and
Moniak,
yeah, you get
Yadiel
Mono
Sanchez.
and Sanchez. So okay, that's fine. Then you go Tyler Anderson, which TBD on that, but right now it doesn't look all that good. I said TBD. You got 2 more years. What if he wins the Cy Young this next year? I'm not saying he's going to win the Cy Young,
Yeah, yeah.
but can you give me the odd? Can you find the odds of Tyler Anderson winning Cy Young? And I'll put money on it. I'll put money on it for you, so
You'll
that when he
throw out
wins,
a whole dollar.
a whole
It
dollar. I
it
mean,
probably it probably pays 500 to one.
maybe more. I'm gonna be honest there with you. After the season he had last year, maybe more. So, but we'll see. All jokes aside, had to look at it. By the way, 4 games in, the Angels are 2-2. Before we get things
Five.
rolling, well, I got 2-2. They're two. Well, maybe they didn't count one of the split.
Yeah,
The
two
split
two
start
no
games.
2 2 and 1.
Oh, well,
They
this says
tied with the
two and
Dodgers in
two.
game
All
one.
right. Yeah, they're right.
Well,
3 games in, 2-2. The app says 2-2. They
five
got to
game,
figure it out. 5 games
two
in,
two
two
and
and
one. They tied with the Dodgers 7-7.
That's fine.
Good to
That's
know you've
fine.
been watching.
That's fine. Come on. Come on. I haven't even hooked up. I haven't even set up TV with Bally Sports yet. So, however, do not let that fool you because I do want to talk about what we've seen, what we liked. I mean, we start seeing a lot of reports out there. We start talking to people, um, and we have people, we have friends that are there as well. So it's we start hearing things, seeing who's in the best shape of their life, who do we like, and things like that. Before we get on to that, thank you so much for watching, and listening to this podcast here, Talking Halos. You can subscribe at all on all our social medias. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so that you know when these podcasts come out. We really do appreciate it. We'll be here all season long talking Angels baseball for you, to you, giving you the real side of Angels baseball, not the fake side. I don't want to give you guys any hope or anything like that. We want to tell it to you guys straight, what we see, and give you the real analysis. So we do appreciate that. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button. And follow us on all our social medias. You can follow myself on Twitter at Jared_Tim's, Nate at Nate Green 34. Nate, I promised we'd talk a little bit of little spring training here, and as always, we do off the record talk about it to see what's going on. We hear things in the system. We hear things in the grapevine. We talked about it maybe earlier today, yesterday. I don't remember when you and I talked about it, but we do see one kind of cool trend that we really hope the Angels bring into the regular season that the Atlanta Braves did really well last year, and that is stealing bases. And Nate, I think you told me that the Angels seem to be stealing more bases. Is that correct?
Yes, well, actually, the two top stolen base leaders in the Cactus League are Nelson Rada and Jordan Adams.
Now
So,
we're only
it,
5 games in, but
but still,
still, it's a sign of change in the right direction. We saw a lot of
also Angels are second in spring training so far
that's too far.
with 11 bags, only second to the Colorado Rockies with 12.
Yeah, and Rockies also lead the MLB in strikeouts through 5 games or something like that on the pitching side of stuff. But besides the point, yes, the Angels are stealing more bases. This is a huge thing. We saw the Braves do a very good job of it. I know you're looking up stats while you're talking. I'm going to look up some
Mhm.
stats because I want to know how many playoff teams went, and you can look this up actually if you have 2023 stats. How many playoff teams we're in the top 10 in stolen bases in 2023. Since the rules changed and everybody started stealing bases, I know the Angels were maybe not dead last, but they were pretty close to very, very last in Major League Baseball last year in stolen bases. And it looks like you want to talk, so I'll let you talk.
Well, four of MLB's top 10 teams made the playoffs in stolen bases last year. The Angels were 29th with 72 bags. Angels might catch that in spring training the way that they're playing. All jokes aside, but yeah, it looks like they are moving. Honestly, the stolen bases is awesome, and I know we brought that up earlier today, but the stolen bases isn't necessarily what's going to help win games. I'm a big believer in stealing bases. I think it helps, and the Reds missed the playoffs barely last year. Diamondbacks made the playoffs. Rays made the playoffs. Guardians missed. Oakland missed. Philly, Chicago just missed. San Diego just missed. Atlanta, right? So those are the teams that were playoff teams that were in the top 10 in stolen bases last year. Milwaukee also finished with 129, which that puts them 11th. They're 3 back of Atlanta. So I think one thing that I've noticed too, and I talked to you about this as well, is the Angels going first to third a lot more. On like not obvious times. Like it almost is like Bill Porter, Ron Washington, EY are telling guys, hey, if you get thrown out, it's fine. This is the time to work on it. We want to go first to third on every single. And almost trying to prove a point that like you guys can make it to third on a base hit to center. And when there's a base hit to left and the guy has to go to his left, you can make it to third on those when you're at first base. Obviously, there are some exceptions to those rules. We're not going to push it with some of these slower guys, but for the most part, like the Angels are a pretty young athletic team. Neto should be able to do it. Rengifo should be able to do it. Ohapi's probably even athletic enough to be able to do it. We know Ward should be able to do it, and Moniak, Adele, like Trout should be able to do it. Like you might have Shanuel and Rendon and maybe Drury that are like, but like those guys are still good base runners. So like um, they still should be able to do it. The stolen bases so far is awesome, but I will point out just for people who are like, oh yeah, this is a new trend. It's not that big of a trend for the Angels. Um, when you look at new managers, the last time Joe Madden took over, the Angels were running in spring training, and everyone thought like, oh, this is kind of what Joe's talking about. He wants to play, 1990s baseball with the Angels. He wants to run. He wants to be able to bunt, hit and run, all these things. And it didn't really carry over because the Angels didn't really have that type of team. He had Justin Upton in left. He had Trout in center, who it was like, he can run, but we don't want him to get hurt. The shortstop of that team was it David Fletcher going into that year? Wow. Rendon wasn't really a runner at that time. Um, didn't really have a second baseman. You had, I guess, Tyler Wade played a little bit of second base. Rengifo played a little bit of second base. There was a couple guys like that. Kurt Suzuki was on that team. He wasn't a runner. Um, yeah, that team didn't really move that much. It did during spring training because a lot of the young kids did, and we're seeing that right now. Like Jordan Adams was a big mover during that year, and I mean he still is. Joe Adele was a big mover during that year, and he still can move a little bit. So I do want to put some context behind this because we are going to bring up like yeah the Angels are stealing more bases in spring training, but a couple of years ago the Angels were also what were they? They were second in spring training that year. So just FYI.
Yeah, no, no, no. I mean, I think I think you see Wash come in with a different feel for the game and more um like Madden got, right? Like he's gonna get more leverage than what Phil Nevin had last year, you know. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see if the first off, if this trend continues in spring, which I would assume it does. And second, if it carries over. I know you and I are big fans of old school baseball in a sense, you know, first to third, on a single, stolen bases, things like that that get you ahead of the game and kind of in a sense
Dirt
go
ball
against.
reads, big deal. Like, it really feels like the Angels haven't been aggressive on those type of things where it's like, hey, ball in the dirt, it gets away from the catcher, and the Angels are like, we'll just wait for the 2-run homer, or we'll just
Funda
wait for the 3-run homer.
fundamentals. It feels like
Yeah.
fundamentals have lacked from what the Angels, what the Angels have been doing in the past. So it'll be interesting to see if the Angels get back to fundamentals. Now, stolen base is a great sign, a great step in the right direction, but it also feels like in the past couple of years the Angels have gone away from again the fundamentals and base running. And how many times have we seen them botch base running, like just be really bad base runners, it feels like, right? So it'll be
Yeah.
very, again, I know I've said this a
Well,
couple times.
there's some encouraging things to that, right? Like Taylor Ward was one of those to me where it's like, man, dude goes first to third on a soft single to center. I've seen Rada look really good on the bases. Jordan Adams has looked really good on the bases. Joe Adele has looked really good on the bases. Like he turned a double into a triple, which was really impressive from him. But then you go and look at Nolan Shanuel, and he has probably the biggest blunder of spring training so far from the Angels. When you look at his back pick from Mookie Betts, against the Dodgers. It was thrown to the catcher, and Mookie Betts sneaks in behind him and gets back picked at first. And it's like, man, that can't be happening. Like, I I don't know if Bo Porter was the first base coach during that game. I know they've had some rotating guys so far with the doubleheader and things like that. It's not always the same guys, but some of these things need to be cleaned up, and they will. And I know we'll talk about like, oh, it's a young mistake, but like, if you're going to be at the big league level, this is what is expected, right? Like, those outs are huge.
Yeah, you can't make those mistakes when you're at the big league level consistently and think that you are a winning ball club. So more on to more spring training stuff. Kind of interesting. I don't know if it was an article that came out or just around Washington talking, but he spoke highly of Griffin Canning. And speaking of Griffin Canning, I think he plays. a decently big part in this season. And if the Angels are going to be successful, him being on the field more often and being a good pitcher, because that gives the Angels a lot more depth, right? If Griffin Canning is healthy and pitching, that means that you have six starters to choose from at that point, correct? So you'd hope the Angels go to a five-man rotation. I'm hoping Wash is right. I'm hoping that Canning takes a step in the right direction. I know that we are not the biggest of Griffin Canning fans, because he doesn't throw the off speed as well. He has three different fastballs and a slider, as the dog is being being an idiot back there. But yeah, I'm I've Griffin Canning has grown on me in the past couple of years just watching. Dude, I'm gonna look at this. This is unacceptable back here, man. How do you control your dogs? Because this isn't good. I just want to talk about Griffin
Squirt
Canning.
bottle.
No, but Griffin Canning has grown on me a little bit. I know that you're not a fan of him by any means, but uh, the more I watch UCLA, and I watch UCLA all over the weekend, the more I see pitchers come from there, and the more I want Griffin Canning to be like Trevor Bauer in a sense, not in a bad way, but in a pitching way, because Trevor Bauer can be a very good pitcher. So I like Wash's comments. I think that Canning is a big part of this team if they think they're going to be successful, and play deep into the season. So I don't know if you have anything else you want to say about Griffin Canning.
Yeah, I really am curious to see what Barry Enright does with him this upcoming season. I think one of the knocks with Griffin Canning is because everything is so hard, he struggles to put guys away. And people are going to find that funny because they're like, "Oh, Griffin Canning gets a bunch of strikeouts. So what do you mean he has a tough time putting guys away?" But if you look at it, Griffin Canning is typically a guy who throws 5 innings, 115 pitches because he struggles putting guys away. Yeah, he ends up getting the strikeout, but could we cut down on, instead of striking out 8 in 5 innings, can we strike out 5 in 5 innings and be at about 85 pitches and be able to run you back out there for the sixth? Um, I think that has a little bit to do with what you're talking about with like everything being hard. So guys are a little bit more on time to stuff, and it's a little bit harder to like, you know, change timing when it's like, oh, hey, really good time to throw a changeup or a curveball and just kind of change some timing. You see a lot of the same speed. So hitters' timing doesn't have to change that much, and you don't see as many fooled guys. But if Barry Enright can get him to not worry about striking guys out, which I think is a big talking point to a lot of pitchers so far this spring and into the whole year, is like, hey, you know, getting 3 pitch outs is just as good as a punch out. Like it is okay to throw 9, 10 pitches in an inning and not strike anyone out. Like nobody is going to be upset about you throwing 10 pitches and not giving up a run and not giving up a hit, but also not getting a strikeout. So instead of what it felt like for the last couple of years, is like I don't know if it was a Shohei Ohtani thing. I don't know if it was what it was, but it felt like, hey, how many strikeouts that guy have? Oh, did you see that? Like he struck out 15 today, or he struck out 13 today. And it's like that's great. He also threw, 5 1/3, or whatever. Like so, those type of things where the strikeouts are awesome, but they're also a sexy stat. And for the Angels to be good, we've talked about this a lot. Griffin Canning, much like Chase Silseth, much like Reed Detmers, much like Patrick Sandoval, those guys have got to be able to get through 6 innings. We cannot ride with 4 1/3, 5 innings. Like that is not how this team is built. The bullpen is built, to pitch, but it's not going to work out well if these guys are taxing the bullpen starting in March and April and going all the way through September. It's going to be a long year if these starters can't get through six.
Yeah, no, you absolutely right. That's something we're going to keep an eye on as the season begins, is how efficient. I mean, obviously, early in the season, you're going to hope guys go, 5, 6, 7 innings, and the bullpen might be used a little bit. But if given the opportunity, the Angel starters definitely need to get deep into games, especially even more in a five-man rotation, right? Like you have to you got to get deeper into games and find a way to get to um you got to find a way to get above 150 innings pitched if you're everybody in the Angels rotation this year. I mean, that's the key, that's the goal. If you can get all your guys above 150 innings, I mean, you're going to have some injuries. That's like It's part of it. But if you can find a way to get your guys above 150 innings, I think the Angels have on the pitching side of things, and as far as development goes, a successful season. Like I think if Sandoval and Detmers and Silseth, and even Canning can get above that 150 inning mark, I think you're in a good spot. I mean, I didn't mention Tyler Anderson because I really don't care about the development there.
Cy Young candidates.
I mean, 500 to 1 odds, right? Did we find it? I don't even know.
No,
I bet they don't even
I
have
don't.
it.
I don't think you actually can find that.
I mean, you can bet on anything in Vegas, right? So I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but um, but yeah, I mean, I don't, 150 innings. That's the key there. If you can get above that, um, it becomes a very good developmental year for the Angels rotation moving forward. So, last question I have for you before I let everybody go. 5 games in, who's impressed you? I have 3 names, and you're not allowed to take any of them. And I have
Oh well, I already know I'm gonna take one of them because Nelson Rada has looked really well, and that's probably number one on your list.
no,
No, it's not on your list.
no, I
Okay,
wasn't going to
huge.
mention him.
Okay, good. Um, I think Nelson Rada has looked really good. Um, just putting the ball in play, stealing some bags, flying around. Like he looks fun. He's young, and I think just the fact that he's able to hang with this competition is awesome. I think this is a big success for the Angels. Like maybe maybe he gets thrown in that top 100 after a really solid spring. Like there's a chance. So I think he's one guy that I've been really impressed with so far. Um, just from that standpoint of like being young and being able to compete with where we're at so far.
You got 2 more, or are you looking them up? Because I
No, no,
didn't.
no. I thought we were going one, one,
No,
one,
no,
one.
no, you
Because
good.
no, no, no.
No,
I don't want to take your guy. So tell
no,
me
no,
your
no,
guy. So I
no, no. Go
yeah
ahead. Go.
no
Okay,
tell me your
fine.
next guy because I don't want to take him.
That's fine. I'll give my 3 guys, and you can find 3 other guys because I know one of them will be taken by you. Um, Number one for me is Caden Day, and I know he threw today. But I mean, he's one of those guys where a couple years ago when I saw him for the first time, it was like, yep, you're slotting fairly high in my top 30 prospects ranking. Could be the number one prospect in the Angels farm system come 5 games into the season, and especially if Shanuel is is on the opening day roster for the Angels, which it seems like he's going to be. So Caden Dana looks really really good. Big physical, throws hard, throws strikes, has out pitches. Be interesting to see where he starts this year. Number 2 for me, I picked 3 guys that had really good days today, but Guillermo Zuniga looks phenomenal. It's just a live
Okay,
arm, good slider. I mean, I think there's a chance that he makes the team out of spring training. If it's not Ben Joyce, I think that he's a guy that you know
you're forgetting a very important pitcher.
that what am
Jose
I?
Suarez has got to make the roster, so
We'll see.
it's got to be
We
tough.
we will see. And the number 3, I just like seeing him in the order. I like seeing him out there because he brings a little bit of swag to the field. And it's good to see him healthy and playing again. Is Zach Neto? Had a big day today. For the Angels, but like I said, love the high leg kick. Love what he brings to the field every day. And this isn't his first spring training, is it? No, it's his second spring
No,
training.
second.
That's weird to think that it's only his second spring training and he's going to be one of those. It feels like he's going to be one of those veteran players already. Um, but yeah, it's good to see Zach Neto out there along with plenty of others, and I'm sure everybody's going to be lighting us up in the comments saying, "Oh, you missed this guy, you missed that guy."
Hmm.
But we're 5 games in. I'm sure you probably gonna. I have a weird feeling you may bring up Jason Martin. I could totally be wrong.
That
Um,
was one of my
was
guys
it?
actually.
Go
So
ahead, because he looks good too. Like I'm not
yeah,
gonna.
no, he looks good. Coming back from the Korean Baseball League, had a pretty good year there. Key piece in the Garrett Cole trade. I'm sure everyone's brought this up about Jason Martin, about who he is, the former Orange Lutheran kid, SoCal native. He has looked really good so far. Three for six. He's hit a double and a bomb. He's walked once, struck out twice. So there is still some swing and miss in this game, but he is an athletic outfielder that could play all 3 positions. He can play center field um, with some pop. I mean, left-handed pop, which the Angels are going to need lefties in this order just because they're so right-handed. I don't know if he's going to make the team out of spring. It's going to be an uphill battle with Hicks and with Adele. Probably both needing to make the roster. Moniak's going to make the roster. Ward's going to make the roster. Trout's going to make the roster. So it's a lot of guys in the outfield, but a really good org guy. Like I feel like he's a quality guy. Him and Marisnik, where it's like, hey, if for some reason Trout or Ward or somebody gets hurt, like you can call one of those guys up for a week or two and not be like, oh man, like most of the public has never heard this guy's name. Like he was a former top prospect, lower top 100, not high. Am I wrong? Maybe he wasn't top 100, but he was a bigger name prospect with the Astros and then the Pirates as well. So interesting and just fun to see him out there. We played against each other in high school, so that was kind of fun. The other guy, and this is going to be a weird one. Okay, I think Adrianza has looked well. Like I think he's looked pretty good so far. Switch hitting guy, he could play all three infield positions. Probably could play all. He probably could play all outfield positions as well. I thought he's done well. I thought he's done a pretty good job handling the leadoff spot in the game that he led off against the Giants. With some good bat to ball. Kind of a poor man's Kike Hernandez, I guess, is what I was talking to somebody about. Like very versatile,
Super poor.
super poor. Yeah,
Super poor, yeah.
that's fine. But can handle any position. Switch hitter, swings it okay. Not like elite hitter, but also has some background with Wash. Um, Played in Atlanta with Wash, so I think that's a big sign for him. I know a lot of people are putting Stefanik on this roster right now and saying like, oh, he's the last guy, but I wouldn't sleep on Adrianza. I think he brings something that the Angels are looking for off the bench. They're looking for. I feel like they got to be looking for a left-handed bat off the bench. Switch hitter is nice. Guy can play multiple positions, which is also nice because maybe he can give Rendon a half day off, or maybe he can give um, Neto a half day off, or a full day off, or all these things where it brings some versatility to this team. So I know I could have gone with a lot of different guys. I know I could have gone with some younger guys, but I think some of these guys that we've brought in on minor league deals are interesting and it's kind of fun.
Yeah, one thing I will bring up, and we mentioned a couple shortstop here is if Zach Neto gets hurt, there really isn't anybody that can play shortstop after that, and that worries me. That worries me a little bit. I know people are going to be like, "Well, Luis Renifo," or "Well, I mean, you want to start digging down into AAA. You go Richie Martin, you go Adrianza, who you just mentioned, and then I mean, that's not
You're
depth.
forgetting one guy. You're
Who am I
forgetting one
forgetting?
guy.
Mikey
Levon
Stefanik,
Soto.
Levon Soto. I mean, that's the one position that
He
worries
can
me.
play shortstop.
That's the one position. I'm just saying that's the one position that
Mhm.
worries me right now. If Zach Neto gets hurt, and if he gets hurt long term,
Kyron.
um,
Don't forget Kyron.
yeah, I guess you can go. But again,
They're
if
not great
Neto,
options though. Like the fact that I'm having to throw out guys where it's like Kyron
yeah,
was okay, couldn't hit at the big league level last year, but like really good
he's fine.
athletic player. Is he a shortstop at the next level? I know you say no. I thought maybe he could play defensively at shortstop, but he hasn't hit enough to prove that he could. Levon Soto, same thing. Like he can play there defensively, but not enough offense. Um, to be there every day. Like if Neto is actually out for a month or two, like it's scary looking down at that depth chart going, man, who's going to play for a month or two? We don't really have that guy. So signing a guy like an Elvis Andrus or someone like that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I don't know, another Wash connection, but I don't know. I'm just throwing out a bunch of Wash connections because it feels like Wash kind of trying to do that a little bit, not a crazy amount like Joe Madden did, but a little bit here and there.
I mean, you get guys that are going to be with their guys, if that makes sense. I know that guys that are going to be with their guys. You get guys that have been with their managers in previous years before. So, with all that being said, thank you so much for watching and listening. Go ahead and follow us on all our social medias. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you have not already. You can go ahead and follow myself on X Jared_Tim's Nate at Nate Green 34. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Have a great rest of your day.